Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the meeting of the Carver Conservation Commission for Wednesday, January 4th, 2023. Following our agenda this evening, the first order of business will be discussions and business. 4 items under discussions and business. The first one is a letter to close the Pine Gate enforcement order. If you recall, when we met in early December, we had a draft of this letter, and we wanted to amend it to include a paragraph regarding the sampling that was done, getting the report in a timely manner of the samples that was done. And we received that report a couple of days after that December meeting. So that's been taken care of.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, also Town Council gave their approval of that letter.
Okay.
What were the results?
Good. So,
did they do the soil testing?
Yep.
Yeah, I sent you a copy of the.
You got a copy of it.
My computer blew up, so
okay, well,
I'm not sure
I sent you a
have the
PDF.
copy.
It's like 330 pages.
Yeah, it's huge.
Did they find anything? Can you give me a
no.
paraphrase?
No.
There was 2 samples that the detection of arsenic was just over the reporting limit by 1 or 2 parts. Other than that, the water samples were clean and the cranberry samples were clean.
Okay. Yeah, and the two places that were where the number was a little tiny bit over were 3 inches apart from each other.
Okay.
So it wasn't this, one was on one property and the other was at the other property. It was a 3-inch and a 6-inch from the pole.
My understanding actually is that wasn't the water that detected, but there was a splinter of pole that resulted in that number.
They did find something that.
Yeah, that's what caused it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're going to resample.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the most part, everything else, they did more than 80 test samples, and they were all good, except for those 2.
80 samples?
Yeah.
Okay.
Across both properties.
Okay.
All right. So I will entertain a motion to approve this letter so we can get it out to Pine Gate.
So moved.
Second? All right, Curtis seconded. All right.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
So this letter hypothetically gets approved. When they go back to, I guess they've got metal poles that they're looking to use.
Steel poles.
Steel poles. Will they come back to us with a renewed plan?
If they need to, if they can use the old footprint that the order of conditions holds them to, they're all set. But if they have to come in, they'll have to come in with an amendment to the order of conditions
I want
with a new
no
plan.
matter what.
So yeah, with the new poles, with the diameter being less, that we don't know if that is going to cause the poles to sink, in fact, deeper.
Yeah, too much time has passed.
Yeah. So well,
The order of conditions stays good for.
It's good till this fall.
that was my next
fall.
question. Okay.
So it's still a valid permit.
Okay.
Right, and the permit was for steel poles, so.
Okay.
This is just about the enforcement order.
This is removing the enforcement order.
Which was
Nothing to do with the steel poles necessarily.
right, which was to remove the utility poles.
Correct.
No, but the order, I get all that, but the order of conditions is also related to the scope of work, how the size of the footprint, all that.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, but if that remains the same, then the orders of conditions remain in effect.
Okay.
All right? So it's been moved and seconded to approve the letter for Pine Gate. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, it's 4-1 approved to send this out. All right.
We don't have Ashley tonight?
No, she's
COVID.
under the weather.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, next up, we can move this to the end of our
Sounds good to me.
meeting.
Whatever you want.
This is a review of the articles for the town meeting that we discussed at our last meeting. I talked to Town Hall about how we have to go about doing them, so we'll talk about that later. The next up on our discussion is 213 Meadow Street. Have somebody from here, from there? Thank you.
And please sign in on the clipboard.
Yes, please give us your name and your address, and
Take your time. You're southpaw, huh?
Sorry, what was that?
Said you're a southpaw.
Yes.
Well, good man.
Be careful, you can't say that. The bald head jokes either.
My dad always thought it made me better at baseball, but who knows? All right. So my name is Jordan Trundy, and I'm here to discuss 213 Meadow Street, where I reside and where I own a business. If you'd like, Mr. Chairman, I can read my letter aloud, or...
I don't think,
We all have it.
we all have it.
Okay.
I made copies for them.
Sure.
And I read it, and I was also the person who brought this to the attention of the board. I happened to drive down Meadow Street and saw it there all of a sudden, and saw its proximity to the cranberry bog.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, being a roof structure, it is an impervious surface, which requires from us, in most cases, a variance. So on one of our site visits in the area, we stopped by and took a look at it, and then that's when the conservation agent wrote you the letter. I see from your letter back to us that you seem to have asked all the right questions when you were talking to the building inspector. And it appears that he did not give you a right answer regarding its proximity to the bog. What are our options in a case like this?
Well, you can make them file an after-the-fact NOI, or we could write a letter, kind of reprimand letter, but, kind of let him off the hook, because Paul, the building inspector, according to his testimony, did lead him to believe he was exempt from conservation.
Mm-hmm.
So just those two.
Are there any corresponding documents from the building inspector himself to corroborate
I'd
this?
have to look.
Okay.
I honestly doubt it, because on the building permit they have a sign off for conservation on the bottom. I never saw it.
They also got an electrical inspection that was approved. So this goes back to, if I may, this goes back to private property. The guy's trying to put up a farm stand. It's a little tiny building, 12 by 16. Personally, it looks great. If he's willing to file an after-the-fact NOI, I have no issue. He's got stone out here, and what little tiny bit of runoff's gonna come off this shed's gonna wind up in the stone, and ultimately it's gonna wind up back in the bog, which they need water to grow berries with either. Anyway, he's putting up a farm stand. He's not building a repair shop.
Well,
So-
the thing is it's 2,000 square feet of the stone. That's considered fill. That's the biggie.
Yeah, it's not so much the structure. The structure.
The water won't run through it?
I understand, but I'm just saying by the rule book,
Okay.
that's what the rule book says.
My vote would be to file an after-the-fact NOI. I don't see a big deal with this at all, and I think this is the last place that we want to try to die on this hill. I don't understand this.
Again,
I know what you're going to say.
okay. Again, it's precedent.
Yeah, I get it. It's a farm stand, and it
I
technically...
understand that, but there-
Technically, it's not even a permanent building. It's not on a foundation. You could pick it up with a forklift and take it across the street. Am I wrong?
No, that's correct. It's on skids, so it could be lifted like a pallet.
So it's not even a building. if you look at the current bylaws, it's not a taxable structure, because there's no foundation, it's a temporary storage building. He could park a container right there, and nobody'd ask a single solitary question. This is no different, if you can pick it up and move it. It's not a permanent location. There is no foundation, it's not anchored to the ground. It's a shed that's set there, and you could pick it up and move it 10 feet up the street and set it down again. I don't have an issue with it. If he wants to do an after-the-fact NOI,
I think that that's
to dot
probably,
the i's and cross the t's. But
I
it's
think
pretty
that's-
obvious
that's
that
what
if
we
he was
need to do.
granted an electrical permit, and that's what it says here,
yeah, I see the electrical on the side of the building.
that, you know, the former building inspector said, go ahead, and he's got an electrical permit with a connection, and that was approved.
Right.
Isn't 120 square feet the sort of the marker as to when somebody needs something beyond that, and somebody needs a permit?
No, then you get
It's-
into there.
I think
you get
it's-
into
I think
zoning
it's
stuff.
200.
It's 200 square feet?
Yeah.
It's- what is it?
If you, it's, this
Well, it's
is,
700 square feet.
It's 700 square feet.
700 square,
Yeah.
am I right, Sharon?
Yeah.
700 square feet requires a variance from zoning?
Yeah, 600 for a garage, 700 for an outbuilding, I think.
Yeah.
So this is really an outbuilding?
Right.
And it's, you know,
And
it's,
we also got a foundation in order to be a structure.
right, there's no foundation, it's sitting on.
well, that's the
skids.
that's a 200 square foot cutoff foundation.
That's what I thought, okay.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so
You were,
are you making a motion to,
I make a motion that we would ask this gentleman to file an after-the-fact NOI. It's a $70 fee and bring it back before us. And personally, I can't tell you what the outcome of that will be, because that would be inappropriate, but I don't see a big problem with this.
do I have a second?
I just had another question. What about the fill situation? What do we, what?
that would be
Stone.
part of the after the fact, then, well, that's up to you folks to.
Right, gotcha.
I mean, we allow asphalt,
Right.
ground asphalt. This is obviously just as pervious
So-
as ground asphalt.
And again, does it fall under the agricultural status? Like, is it part of?
The only thing you can do for exemption on is put fill under the building itself.
Right.
But he, of course, did a parking area.
I see.
So it doesn't.
It doesn't, okay.
But that would be part of the after-the-fact NOI.
Yeah, we'd be,
If you
we'd
made
be
him take
voting
this-
on the whole package.
Right.
If you made him take the stone out, what are you gonna put in its place? Sand. I mean, I'd rather have stone. So, at least the cars won't rut the stone. You know, this comes down into like common sense stuff, and I don't think you did anything wrong. I think you did everything the way you're supposed to. You went and got a building permit, you went and got an electrical permit, you hooked it all up, and you didn't know. So I'm not gonna hold any of that against you, and it's not even really a permanent structure. You know, I have a 40-foot container on the side of my yard. It just sits on the ground. It's not a permanent anything.
How close is it to water?
Well, that's what I was about to
No,
just
it's
kind
far
of,
enough away.
No,
How close is this to water? This is a cranberry bog, which
This
right
is-
now is pretty dry.
The stone's 15 feet away.
15 feet.
It seems as though the building inspector should.
Yeah, this falls back to the building
It-
Well, we
inspector.
can't fault this
No,
gentleman.
don't
no,
fault him,
we're-
but I'm
and we're
saying
He didn't
it-
stick it there in the middle of the night and say, oh geez, I didn't know.
It seems to be a
No.
procedural issue with the town that
Sure.
we should straighten
And
that
then he
out
got an
also.
electrical permit.
Yeah, well, we have a new building inspector now, so
Oh, okay.
I'll have to
Good.
have a conversation with him.
Okay,
Right.
all right, very good.
At
and by
least
the way,
that's my belief.
and by the way, I'm Google Earthing, not texting anybody or emailing anybody, but it is, looks like there are a couple waterways that are, you can't quite tell how many.
Well, they're his own ditches.
Yeah.
Then across the street is AD Makepeace.
Makepeace box, yeah.
But there's no reservoir near any of this. He's got to pump water into it.
Right. Well, anyway, okay.
Yeah.
So do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Dave seconds. So it's been moved and seconded to ask Mr. Trundy to come back, talk to the conservation agent, and come in with an after-the-fact notice of intent on this farm stand and its associated gravel parking area. And,
Are you agreeable to that? Is that okay with you?
Yes, absolutely.
okay. So, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none. 5-0 is the vote on that. Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you for your letter.
Thank you,
It's-
Mr.
it's-
Chairman.
It's quite detailed, and,
Sorry about the grief.
yeah,
Sometimes different departments don't exactly connect with other departments, you know what I mean? There's a lot of that going on.
I worked in IT, so I totally get that.
okay. Next up is 187 Meadow Street.
Is this the one? Yeah, it is.
187 Meadow?
Yeah, that's Maskey. They asked to be put on the agenda for tonight.
Okay.
They submitted the plans and everything, so I don't, they didn't say no. They weren't coming.
Isn't this the one across where the bog was that had the for sale sign out for the longest
Yes,
while?
yes.
And they want to stick a house way down in the back? And there's two other houses over here?
Actually, off to your left, behind the, back here are where the houses are.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes, this is.
yeah, existing dwelling, I see it. This is the one that we walked a couple of times where
Yep.
they had gone over the culverts and.
Yep, they
made
they
access
created a
to the-
road.
Yeah, then they did, we're gonna bring the bog back
Right.
to life, and they never did, and now it's gonna be a house stuck way in the back, and,
Well, they're not here, so,
yeah, why don't we table this, I guess?
Okay.
yeah. we don't-
Motion to table.
It's
this
a
187.
discussion, we don't need to do that.
Well, we still gotta table it. Put it off
I
to the
mean-
next time.
Can I just say one thing about it?
Yes.
It does seem a little bit overreach on this thing, though, right? I mean,
Yeah,
Well,
this is.
Since we're not, since it's a discussion, it's not a
Okay.
public hearing,
Yeah.
you know, we'll wait till the person comes in and talk about
Okay.
it, but, you know, I think the plans speak for themselves.
yes, okay.
Table to the next meeting.
Okay, you want, is that a motion?
Yes.
All right, second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded to table the discussion on 187 Meadow Street till our next meeting, which is February 1st, I believe. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
February 1st?
No, January 18th.
Oh, I'm sorry, January 18th.
January 4th.
I'm thinking ahead, I'm being prescient.
We'll forgive you.
Also,
No, you'll understand why in a minute. February 18th, January 18th. Okay,
You got it.
very good. Approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. 5-0 on the,
Oh, now we do.
all right, minutes we'll get to. 5 Stanley Lane, they have asked for another continuance, is that correct?
Yes, it is, and we have it in writing in an email, so. And they would like to go to the January 18th meeting.
January 18th.
All right, so that's continued once again to 118.
Oh, fast now.
New public hearings?
Sorry, just a quick question,
Yes.
just with this particular group, I'm not picking on them, but while they continue with these meetings, does that mean that they do not continue with work on site? Or? how
Well,
does
not
that-
with the swimming pool, no, the house is built.
Yeah, no, I know
Yeah,
that. but-
no, they're not proceeding with the
Okay.
pool. That's a good question.
But it seemed an appropriate question for this
Yeah.
particular.
Surprised, because usually a swimming pool is pretty easy, but okay.
Well, I think the letter that they sent indicated that they just got a buyer,
Yeah, they just passed papers on it from what
and
I
they
understand.
want to find out what the buyer wants to
Yeah.
So
do.
the buyer may not even want a pool.
It's
Yeah,
possible.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
so they're discussing.
right.
Okay.
Okay, next up, new public hearings.
Isn't this continued?
No, it was a discussion.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Regarding a parcel of land in the Vaughn Estate subdivision, sometimes referred to as 0 Wade Street, which is a 6.32 acre recreation area that was given to the Carver Redevelopment Authority, the RDA, by the town after tax lien foreclosure, assessor reference map 112-3-B. The RDA would like to offer this parcel to the care and custody of the Conservation Commission, would the Conservation Commissioners be in favor of taking the care, custody, and incurring the incidental costs of said parcel of land? Ms. Clark?
You do know, excuse me, you do know that as vice chairman of the IDA, you have to recuse yourself.
To vote, from voting.
At least.
Yeah.
That's the case, and he gets to come sit with me.
Well, yeah, technically, since the RDA is giving land to conservation, frankly, that should be the case, but, you know, I will defer to your good judgment, Mr. Chairman. I'm not trying to take over the meeting by any means, but you are the vice chairman of the RDA, and Sharon's the chair of the RDA. We're talking about property that's in tax lien, that's in the hands of the RDA coming to conservation. So I just don't want this to come back and bite anybody in this day and age of wokeness. That's all.
Thank you for your concern.
Everybody seems wide awake these days.
All right, let's see where this goes.
Okey dokey.
All right. Ms. Clark?
Okay.
Give it over.
All right, well, I am following up on my informal presentation of November 16th last year about a parcel of land. I think it's 6.32 acres at the end of Wade Street in Vaughan Estates. I have one set of plans, even though I'd sent everything for the November meeting. If anyone needs to see them, or if anybody back here wants to see them.
We saw it.
Yeah.
You've seen them. We did a walkthrough, a site walk. I can't remember what day it was. Sometime in November, I think it was, where members of the Concom and members of the RDA walked the site.
And the town planner.
And the town planner and Gary. And we're here at this time to formally open the public hearing because last time was just a discussion point. What has transpired is we'd like to take any comments about asking the conservation to take over this piece. We'd like to offer it to the care and custody. We do have we've hired a surveyor to come out and do an actual formal survey of the property and post boundaries. And to that end, until that is done, then I am somewhat reticent whether we should continue, just go ahead and continue the hearing until we have that, that accomplished. There's been some question about possible encroachments, we're not sure. So we'd like to have the survey done, a Mylar produced that we would be able to use to, for the Concom to look over.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I also have a request in to Finance Department as chairman of the Finance Committee. I want to know, first of all, how much is in the Land Acquisition Trust account. I also want to know how much, if anything, because once upon a time there was, in the maintenance account. And this brings up a good point, because as more and more land is being given to the Conservation Commission, we need to know that we have a functioning maintenance account. We own a property on Lakeview. We own other property in town now under the care and custody. And who's getting the bill to maintain any of this? And it was my understanding, going back a few years, you may remember, that I was under the impression we had like $85,000, $90,000 in the maintenance account. And we're unable to locate and figure that out at this point. And we also are under the impression that we had $400,000 or $500,000 back in the Land Acquisition Trust account, and we're trying to get council to decide whether we can use some of that money to work on the Lakeview property. I'm not trying to take away from this, but this rolls into the big picture, because as more and more land is donated to the care and custody, we need to have the funding to maintain that care and custody.
Yes,
So
we do.
I would like very much to see the results of a survey. I'm very interested in having this happen, but I'd like to know that we have our ducks in a row so that we don't take a piece of property that we now have no ability to do anything with or maintain, that we can't even cut a weed and turn it into a place for the kids or anything like that, because there's no funding for it.
No, I understand that.
So I haven't got those answers yet, and I'm working on it.
I think that the maintenance fee that we all, both you and I, and probably Dan was there too.
Yeah, Dan and
Jim
and Tim.
And Tim, is the one that needs the most scrutiny, because we were
All the fees
pretty much
were
assured
supposed
that
to
that
go
money
in.
was
That's
there.
right. That's correct. And now I'm having problems having somebody locate that. I'm sure it's here,
Right.
We just don't know what drawer it's sitting in.
Right. On the acquisition fund, I believe that when we did purchase the Lakeview property, the question was brought up at that time about maintenance for that. And it was, I believe KP Law has rendered a decision that the only maintenance that could be done was at the point of sale to get the property to a position where we wanted it, and not for ongoing maintenance. So, when do you think you might be able to find an answer on that? Any idea?
Got a dartboard, we'll throw darts, I have no idea.
Jill Martins is looking into it as well.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, she's been,
'Cause I had asked-
she's been hound dogging it for about the last 2 or 3 weeks.
I asked Sue Moak when, 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting, and I said, these are the things that I need to have.
Right, you asked her about this 4 months ago.
Well, I
as
did, and, you know, but in any case. I know the rollback taxes go in the acquisition fund. The last I had heard, there was another $90,000 that got put into it, and then I don't have any updates since then. I've never
Right.
seen a report, so I really have no idea what's where, so I'm trying to get this information as we go.
Right, because I remember our discussion with Brooke being regarding the fact that with all of the solar, that there were quite a big chunk of money
There
coming
was
in
a
on the
huge amount of rollback
permitting,
taxes, that's right.
and that would go to our maintenance fee.
That's absolutely
fund.
right.
So we do need to locate that, because that's going to free our hands to do more things like this, especially with donated land, if we know we have that funding.
Well, it is, as well as, you know, enable us to do something with the Lakeview property. And this is a 6.5 acre tract that I'm assuming isn't completely overgrown with 60-foot
No.
trees on it.
Well,
So this could
no.
potentially be some kind of you know, an area for kids in the neighborhood or something like that, that, you know, requires nothing more than a mower, you know?
Well,
Not even that.
it is forested, but there is a well-maintained trail
Yeah.
that goes through it that is
And that's
evidently
right up Dan's alley. He'll build another
maintained by
bridge.
the neighborhood.
Yeah,
It seems to me. 'Cause-
I think neighbors have cleared, like
Yeah.
when trees have come down, older trees have come down and crossed the path. I think some kids use it to go down to the Makepeace bogs, the angly bogs that were behind there, to either go fishing at the little pond down there or go walk on the trails.
Well, what a great spot for that.
It is, I
You know, and to
mean,
have a couple of dollars to maintain the trails or something
Yeah.
like that wouldn't kill us either.
It's
I
a
mean,
nice property.
Yeah, it's not a bad parcel.
No, you'd have and you know, you have a more difficult time now trying to get volunteers, because sometimes we volunteer people to death. So it'd be nice to sit back and say, you know, we're gonna hire a couple of kids in the summertime to run around with a skag mower and just clean up the trail so you can walk down it and not get poison ivy and not get, you know, something like that.
I
So,
don't know what a scale.
I mean, why not? Well, I'm not, you know.
Just a
mower.
big lawnmower.
Big mower?
Yeah, I mean, we have the property on Indian Street that we really can't do anything with right now,
Right.
because we don't have any funding to do
It'd be
that.
great if we had funding to do something.
Yeah, and, you know, the Carver Trail Sewers have done some work on Savory Avenue, but that's kind of, that group of volunteers has shrunk to the point where it's 5 or 6 people.
You burn them up.
Well, and they don't work fast enough to cut back what's growing in
I don't
the
want to mow my
summertime.
own grass, let alone go.
I know.
I-
So,
Those are all, just as a citizen, those are all real valid concerns, and the idea that if you had this maintenance fund, I mean, I really in my lifetime have not lost $90,000. I don't know where it could be in this town, but when you find it, if it has my name on it, it's probably mine.
Your name goes right below my name, so we're on the same page.
I just don't know how you lose. But anyway, it's a bookkeeping thing, I'm sure. But
Believe me, they don't know it to either one of us.
But the idea that to maintain smaller parcels like this one, or, you know, even a larger one over on Savory Ave, hiring a work crew in the summer, you know, college kids, high school seniors or whoever with an overseer to kind of clean those up, I think that would be
It'd be great for the neighborhood.
great for the neighborhood.
Yeah, Savory Ave is used a lot.
Yeah.
it is.
And, you know, we have a lot of this concept, we should actually put together a list, maybe I can charge you with that, or maybe you. Give us a list of all the property that we own, all the property that's under our care and custody.
Right.
Because we keep on approving this stuff and say, thank you very much, and then it goes by the wayside, And then suddenly, 2 years later, you find out, wow, we have control of that piece of
It's,
property?
Yeah, we
it's
have a
on
lot-
my radar screen.
There's a lot of property in town.
There are a
that's
lot
been-
of little parcels that we have.
Yeah, there are.
On Wareham Street, there's
We
a
got a
couple.
lot over in Bates.
Yeah,
All those, that area came to us a year ago.
Oh, really?
yeah.
Yeah, you were here.
Was?
That was some of the beach area, the playgrounds.
Oh, right.
They were in between the houses, and it was all given off to Concom. Well, there's a perfect example. There's actually a playground there. Who's maintaining the playground?
Right.
Is that coming out of O&M, or is it coming out of a conservation maintenance account, which is really where it should come out of? It shouldn't be the town's burden. The town gave it to conservation.
Right.
If the town wanted to foot the bill for it, they could have kept it,
Yes.
The brief history of this property, which I'm sure many of you know, is that it was designated as a recreation area for the subdivision, which is about 130 homes or so. And as most of the Williams subdivisions, he lets those pieces go to tax title. That's foreclosed on, went to town meeting, they gave it to the select board gave it to us, we actually gave it back to them 10 years ago. They didn't do anything with it, so we've cleaned all that up. So the select board would like to know before they make a decision on rescinding their vote of 10 years ago, that the Conservation Commission would be interested in receiving this parcel as care and custody. Other than that, it's generally the charge of the redevelopment authority to sell these pieces.
Right.
And return the tax money back to the town, which is what we did on Forest Street, and we actually returned $135,000 to the town on an old tax title parcel. That's not what we want. I mean, that's not what the neighborhood wants. It's not a great piece of land for development. It's very slopey, as we all kind of walked through it. It was the old stump dump for the neighborhood when he built the properties. We do insist that this survey be done, and I've authorized our surveyor to go ahead with the project, which is something the RDA would pay for. I don't know if we would discuss reimbursement or not on that. It actually,
Well, if we could find the maintenance.
if you find the maintenance fund, yeah.
No, but
But when you find,
out
the
so we'll
surveying
hold
could be
this
paid for
discussion.
by the other fund, right?
The acquisition.
I'd have to
Yeah,
get-
because that's
we have to get counsel.
purchasing a property, right?
It may very well be able to be
Right.
reimbursed to the
Right.
RDA by the land.
But if there is an encroachment issue, who's gonna,
And that's anecdotal.
uh-huh,
We don't know for certain, and I don't know if usually the Concom requires a survey, a recordable plan, but we're insisting on it in this time because there's enough of a question that we want it solved one way or the other. And then if that proves to be true, then we'll figure out what to do with that.
We would want a clean survey. We get a
Yeah,
clean
you gotta-
survey on
yeah.
everything.
And I don't think we'd have a problem approving the cost of the survey, and there's no reason for the RDA to bear that cost.
Right, and.
If it's
and,
coming to us.
You know, as I mentioned at our last meeting, acquisition is acquisition. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean buy. It
Yeah.
means we acquire the property, and if it's being donated to us, that still is acquisition. So it's
Yeah.
an acquisition.
As far as, I think that would be supported by council also, so.
So my point tonight is to open the public hearing, of course, formalize the process, and I would ask for at least a continuance of a month to your February 1st meeting, so that I would not feel comfortable not going forward with at least giving you the plan, and then we'll have a discussion point from there.
And I'll have more information on where we are with finances, I hope by that time also, so.
Okay,
And you'll have a number from the surveying cost.
yeah,
So
I do.
that we can, try to
It
put it
was
together.
extremely reasonable.
Yeah, I think
And
that's
that
a
was
great idea.
Placing 8 cement bounds or 8 boundary markers.
Excellent.
So I was very pleased with that. So do you have any
Yeah.
questions for me? Where you want to go?
No?
Any comment?
You can,
Sign in?
You can sign
Sign
in if
in
you would,
and-
and just identify yourself.
Yes.
Hi, so my name is Patty Cooney. I actually grew up on Bow Street I used to go on those bogs and have extremely good childhood memories. My kids walking down there with my grandfather, and I would really, really, really like it to stay the way it is. It's a beautiful spot, like you said. You know, kids go down there. The whole neighborhood. That was supposed to be a playground for that neighborhood. Like I said, I grew up. My grandparents built the house in 1983, I think, there. And I would love to see this land to stay the way it is. That's why I came down tonight, because the kids in that neighborhood, they love it down there. The hills that are in there, they're so fun. So it would definitely be really awesome to keep it the way it is. You know, you don't really need much maintenance on wildlife. The turkeys that are in there, you know, that just walk free. So it would definitely be cool to keep it the way it is, which wouldn't cost you guys anything, you know.
No, you're right. I think it's a great idea, and that's certainly our intent.
Good.
Yeah, the maintenance fee is not necessarily only for maintaining trails, but also to, you know, in cases where you have to put up possible impediments to four-wheel drive things, you know, if we have to move boulders and things like that,
Yeah.
to keep those kinds of situations from happening back there. I don't know if it didn't seem to be much of a problem.
No, the neighborhood usually keeps it pretty well, you know.
Okay, but you know, the thing is, once it becomes conservation property, it's a little bit more well-known.
Yeah.
And
that
it
you can
becomes,
actually
it
go there.
becomes, you know, a town property as
Yeah.
opposed to a kind of a neighborhood property.
Yeah,
So
'cause
the
the-
maintenance is not just keeping the trail mode, it's also anything else that has to be done to maintain the land in as close to what it is right now as possible. You know, ideally, it'd be identical as to what it is
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, because it's
But
beautiful.
it's not in the neighborhood, can't find it, so don't worry about it.
That may be true, but it's gonna be, you know, as this list is put together, it's,
I didn't say make the list public, I just said, let us have a list.
well, thank you very much.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think we all
That's
are.
that's certainly our intent, is to leave it just the way it is.
And I would add that there were 2 attempts in the last 10 years for abutters to buy the property. And we would like to just take that off the table. Because again, the RDA is kind of charged with putting property back on the tax rolls if we can. So sitting on this big empty spot.
If you sold it, what are you gonna do with it?
Huh?
What can someone do with it if they bought it, you know?
Both people who approached, one with the RDA and one thought the town owned it, but they couldn't find the deed because we still have it, were abutters who were going to use it for their own use. It wasn't necessarily to build anything on, but it could have been used as open space to gain
Right.
additional considerations or something. So this is another way of making sure that none of that ever has to come up for discussion again. There you go.
Phil Shannon from Bow Street. I just came out to support this deal that you guys are talking about. And I lived in the neighborhood for 19 years now, so I just wanted to show some neighborhood support for Senator Conservation.
Well, good. As I mentioned earlier, we went out, and Sharon did as well. We went out on a site visit, conservation and the RDA, and it's a really special piece of property.
Yeah, definitely.
And you don't find that
Yeah.
kind of untouched
Yeah.
very often.
And it gets used by people from the neighborhood a lot too,
Yeah.
for walking and taking
And
their dogs and stuff.
with the ability to acquire that property at virtually no cost to the town is a great thing, and what's even better is that it becomes perpetual. It never can go back. So,
Yeah. So I just wanted to-
I think you've got 5 people at this table who feel the same way.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Past the sale here.
Yeah. Thanks a
All
lot.
right, thank you for
Thanks,
coming
Phil.
in.
We agree with you wholeheartedly, by the way. I think it's a great idea.
All right, so I need a motion to continue this
Motion to
till
continue
February
the new public
1st.
hearing for 0 Wade Street to February 1st.
Second?
Second.
All right, you got a second, we have 3 seconds.
And can I just jump in between before you vote? If we have not received the survey by then, I will be asking to continue until we
That's
have
fine.
it. Okay?
Just do it in writing in an email to me.
I will do that.
How about I'll modify that motion to February 1st or when the survey is available.
All right? That's
That way,
fine.
if you need to continue
Okay.
beyond February 1st, it's already in the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to
We need a second
continue.
for that amendment.
Second for the
Second.
amendment, all right. It's been moved and seconded to continue the public hearing on 0 Wade Street to February 1st, or a date after which the
Survey.
survey is completed for that property, whichever comes first.
There you go.
All right? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none?
Thank you,
It's
Sharon.
approved.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
I'm gonna do minutes and then we'll go to this thing.
We can do the minutes.
Monstrosity. I have to abstain. Because I wasn't here. You guys have to make the motion, I wasn't here.
Right. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written for January 4th, for December 7th.
So moved?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of December 7th, 2022 as written. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
One abstention.
One abstention. It's, so that's 4-0-1 on that. Okay. Now, getting back to our discussion on the review for articles. When we discussed this back on our December 7th meeting, I had thrown the idea out to try to make it an à la carte menu, have one article with an à la carte menu where each of the items would be voted on sort of separately, which has been done in the past on financial issues at town meeting. I went and spoke to the town administrator's office and was told in this particular case that it's best to have each one of these changes that we want to make its own separate article. So that's what I've done. I've taken what we discussed at the meeting on December 7th. There were a few things that we discussed on the 7th of December that I felt were of lesser of a priority than others. And once I got up to 8 separate articles, I said, that's probably enough. So then I started weaning which ones of the 11 or 12 that we talked about I thought we should go with for this year. And just so that we don't have town meeting, look and say, my God, what is conservation doing? So
Say it anyway.
they're going to say it anyway, but I think that this gives us a better chance of getting most, if not all, of these passed. So very quickly, the ones that I would like to go with, and we can change this if you'd like, are attached. The first one is the adding of invasive species to our jurisdiction. The second one is to add vernal pools to the 200-foot buffer zone that we already have in place for perennial rivers and streams.
Why? Are these gonna be certified vernal pools? Or
No,
just
for vernal
somebody saying
pools.
it's a vernal pool and they just don't know what they're talking about?
No, a vernal pool, as indicated by the meeting the criteria that a
As
vernal
the state
pool.
defines it, yeah.
That's fine by the DEP. right?
Yes,
Yeah.
as defined by DEP.
Yeah,
Well,
not
we've
us.
had this issue in the past where we've had vernal pools called vernal pools and they're not. So,
There is criteria that has to be met for it to be a vernal pool.
So then essentially it has to be certified.
No,
It doesn't have to be.
Could be a potential.
yep.
It could be a potential vernal
If
pool.
it hits the check marks for
If
the
it- yeah, then
for
it's-
the characteristics of vernal pool, then it is.
But a wetland specialist has to come in and
Yes.
Yeah.
do that.
so that needs to be in this,
Yeah.
we need to define the vernal pool. Where else in the bylaw does
Well,
it define?
well, I think the point is that we're not defining it, it's already defined.
I get that.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about wetland specialists having to come in and define the vernal pool, it doesn't say that here. It's pretty obvious where there's a perennial river and a stream.
Right.
That's,
But a wetland specialist at times-
We do get in problems with perennial versus intermittent. We've had that become a problem before too.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I don't want to open too many cans of worms here that we then find ourselves in a conflict with, that's all.
I think at the town meeting might be a good idea, just so people are clear, you know, like I'm saying.
Because we have a property that there's been an argument over perennial, then DEP came in and said, oh, no, this is intermittent. And, you know, to this day, there's still a difference of opinion on that particular little waterway.
Do you want to say potential or certified? Vernal pools?
I prefer just to put in here as approved by a wetland scientist and the DEP guidelines. Period. Now we're in the DEP guidelines and we have a wetland scientist, which we're going to require. If you come in here and tell me you have a vernal pool.
Do we
we're gonna
have a
say we need
vernal pool
wetland
definition
scientist.
under definitions?
I don't think so.
All right, because,
I don't think we do.
all right, because if you did, it could be
Because it's-
spelled out in there.
It's in MGL. I believe.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
So, I mean,
as
if the same way
defined
So, okay, going
by
with,
MGL
I would like that.
or a wetlands and a wetland scientist.
I think that's.
no, we don't need a wetland
Well,
scientist.
we're gonna require a wetland scientist. If you say you have a vernal pool and the guy trying to build this says, no, that's not a vernal pool, it's pretty dry most of the time, now we need somebody to come in and make a decision.
I think we only
If
need,
there's
we
a
only need that
question,
if there's a
but if
contest, if
it's
they
not-
contest it.
I'm sorry.
If they contest whether it's a vernal pool or not, then that's, if it hits all the MGL definition points. then
Right, there's
then
no
it is.
reason for,
But is it our decision that it hits the MGL points, or is it required of a conservation agent or a wetland scientist to determine that?
I think it's for this
That's
body,
my
I
argument.
think based on the state's guidance, it's our, this body can decide that, and if people want to contest that, that's when they would hire
Oh, I see what you're
Correct.
saying.
Okay, so let's add some wording in here that, as defined by
As defined by the
Mass
state of
General laws.
Massachusetts guidelines.
okay, vernal pools as defined.
And perennial rivers and streams, so the whole thing would be as defined by Mass General laws,
a, yes.
Okay,
or Mass
Yeah, that-
General laws concerning wetland protection, however you want to put that in there.
Yeah, and with a lot of things, I like us to consistently be that way, so we're just simply facilitators of laws that already exist. We're not trying to
Right.
give people a hard
I
time.
can't, with the way you guys have it worked with me, I can review and say, you know, I recommend to you, I accept them or don't. Dartmouth, when I worked for them, is the only town where I actually went out and did delineations. It's one of the only towns in the state that does that.
okay.
So how about this wording, as defined by Mass General laws, wetlands protection? That cover it?
I don't know, is that where vernal pools are?
Well,
Yeah,
it'd
vernal
have to
pool
be in-
definition is, you know,
Is it wetlands?
under the CMR, blah, blah,
Yeah,
Right.
Okay,
So just as defined by Mass
10-40 or
General
whatever it
laws.
is.
We don't have to get into chapter and verse, as defined by Mass General laws, Wetlands Protection Act.
okay,
That sounds good.
fine.
If
Okay.
somebody wants to go look it up, feel free, but at least it gives some teeth to the bylaw, because now it gives a foundation for that bylaw.
No, you're onto
The way it's
something.
written, there is no
Yeah.
foundation for
And
it.
then at the town meeting, it might get open to discussion if you don't.
Yeah, and it's open to interpretation unless we
Exactly.
define it and tie it to something. It's gotta be tied to something.
No, you're onto something.
We're good.
Right, and we also, as a commission, if we do a site walk and see something that we think might be a vernal pool, and it's not indicated as such, we can also ask that that be investigated
Correct,
from our standpoint.
right.
Okay. It's just that vernal pools, that the importance of vernal pools is becoming, is being discovered as being more and more important.
It's a hot button topic now.
It truly is. So this gives a little bit more protection to them.
And it gives
expand-
protection to the commission, too.
Yeah, so,
I mean, the laws are in place because it's always been important, it's just, you know.
Right, but-
For
It's
whatever
kind of
reason,
an
we got
aside.
we got different groups kind of hopping on certain
Well, it's
bandwagon
whatever
topics.
dot the board hits that day.
Right.
right. All right, the third one is is changing the language of of what a variance is required for within 65 feet. Right now, it says, and we talked about this at our last meeting, right now it says, no person shall build or enlarge any structure, parking lot, or impervious surface. upon or within 65 feet. That's kind of a grayish area. The state law for the buffer zone within 100 feet states that no person shall remove, fill, dredge, alter, build upon, disturb, or make any changes within 100 feet. So all this is doing is making the language the same for when you need a variance at 65 than it is when you need our permission at 100.
Well, again, we can tie this to the Mass General Law,
Well, no, because Mass General doesn't do a variance.
but they tie the language into the.
Yes, but this is wetlands bylaw
925.
921.3. 9213.1 states this for the 100-foot, the same language.
Okay.
So it's already been said.
So
And
this
you
is a
keep-
clarification?
No,
Yeah. You can't go by the state entirely either, because they have, break it down between 150, you can do things, and then 50 to 0. You don't want to get into that.
Okay.
That's complicated. So he's got it pretty good.
right.
You may have a problem with this one before town meeting, but whatever.
Well, the argument becomes on this one, that if someone
Freak
wants
the
to do...
cranberry growers.
Well, someone wants to do something within 100 feet that alters or remove, fill, dredge, and that also, or if they want to do it within the let me see, how does this work? If they want to do something smaller than 65 feet that alters, we don't have the opportunity right now to say you need a variance to do that.
Yeah, anything under 65, what do you mean?
No, that's not anything. That's what I'm trying to,
I thought the 65 was a no-touch,
it is, but it's
but
not.
it isn't.
It's this, it's what it is now.
Okay.
You're just clarifying the 65,
Right.
I'm
I think.
in effect making it
No touch.
a no-touch.
And on agriculture, they do their exemptions are still
Sure they
there.
are.
Yeah,
They still gotta
So-
maintain
so they
their-
don't lose-
They still gotta maintain
right.
their swales.
Right, so they're not going to lose their exemptions.
yeah, if you read the informational summary, passing this article will make the language regarding the criteria for a variance within 65 feet the same language as the criteria for permission within a 100-foot buffer zone.
I
This will
still-
help clarify when a variance is
Within that
required.
informational summary, we should also put a line in it, this will not affect agricultural exemptions.
No, we
in
already
place.
have that in there, two,
That's great, but it's not in here. This is what town meeting's gonna read, not two before it. Do you know what I mean?
then if it comes up, we can tell them that
It's already in
it's
place.
already in place.
Okay,
It's already in the,
okay. Good luck. Good luck.
All right, an RDA. The next one is just a change in the fee. We had talked about putting together a fee structure.
Right.
I think that that's something that we need to sit down and work on. I read the Dartmouth fee structure that you sent me.
Right.
I think there's some very good things in there, but I don't think we have the time to do that, and I don't want to scare people away by coming up with a chart that has 18 different permutations. So I think for
Understood.
now, if we just come up with, for an RDA, that it's a $150, up from 35.
Don't you wanna just double it? I mean, we're gonna get this greedy?
This goes in line with what the state guidelines are.
a lot of towns, that's the fee.
We've got some catch up to do.
Yeah, it's been $35 since I was in
Time
kindergarten.
immemorial. Yeah.
So let's make it $70 until you graduate out of high school. I mean, you know,
Does $70 cover the administration fee to do everything that Jill does?
So just to cover costs, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is, to cover my cost and Jill's
well,
cost.
then we're overpaying you.
Well, no, you're not.
We'll have to get FinCom involved in this.
Well, good. Good. I'm going to file a grievance.
Okay,
All right, try it.
all right.
It's another good luck.
The next one is the notice of intent fee, and it changes, it adds, based on the Massachusetts DEP fees as listed on their website. So it goes straight to the state website for the fees, plus $150 to cover administrative costs, up from 70.
So that's double, pretty much.
So that's double.
More.
Hold on.
I'd like to see us do
Hold on,
something.
let me do the math on that.
I'd like to see us do
It
something.
is more.
Thank you. You can join I'd like to see and maybe we can't even do this, but I would like to see the fees set on what is considered a simple NOI versus a complicated NOI.
That's what we're
Unfortunately, we have $150 whether you're doing a 2,000 acre solar field or you're trying to get a 10-foot variance for your swimming pool.
That's what I want to us as a group, I want us to sit down and talk about this, but we don't have the time to do that for this year's town meeting. I want to put together a whole.
We could do the cost of the have it be on a sliding scale based on the value of the project.
Well, that is already in the
state
DEP
fees. Yeah.
has a sliding scale based on the notice of intent.
Okay,
So that happens. The only thing that the 150 is our costs.
so let's take 2 more weeks and work on this and come up with a scale for the next meeting. We still don't have, we have plenty of time to get in the warrant. The warrant doesn't have to be etched in stone until March 11th.
Well, if the sliding scale already exists with the state, then could we not
Right.
just simply take the base,
There
the
are-
base fee that we already have, and then add to the differential of the sliding?
That's what
scale?
we're doing now.
That's the minimum cost,
That's-
$150.
And I'm fine, and we do have a sliding scale because it's in the bylaws, it's in our fee schedule.
Right.
I'm just trying to, the poor guy that comes to us and says, I need 10 feet to add on, for my garage over here. I don't want to crucify him with a $150 application, and then he's got to go to building, and he's got to get permits, and more permits, and more permits, and then we're going to tax him. So if you put in, a solar field, or you're trying to put up a commercial building, and then I don't have a problem charging you for the fees. But if you're a resident taxpayer, and you're simply trying to do something that's small, like the guy that just left here, he's put a shed that isn't even on a foundation. So now that would be $150 for that fee as opposed to $70.
But if that's the cost
That's the
we incur, that's what it costs. I mean,
We're a town.
It's the cost of
No
doing
town
business.
gets reimbursed
yeah,
for
but
their
somebody's got to
actual
pay
costs.
for it. Then it's going to come out of the general fund, right?
Of course it does, like
Yeah,
everything
so you're
else.
paying
The
for it
lights come
anyway.
out of the
Let me
general.
let me say something else
Go
about
ahead.
what you're talking about. Did you share your Dartmouth?
I just
with
sent
you. We don't care about
it,
that.
you said
Okay.
to deal just with you at the time.
Okay,
so.
and that's fine. I didn't remember.
I can pass it around.
Yeah.
But what do you see
If
their
I'm correct,
fees?
I believe Dartmouth has an after the fact NOI charge
Oh, yes, that's the
of
fine.
$1,000 for an after the fact. This guy tonight?
Doesn't matter if it's a shed or it's a solar field.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
this is where but this guy tonight, so you could say that if you wanted to, but the fact of the matter is you still have to get realistic, all right? Again, we go back to, and I can cite other people on Sampson's Pond, and we won't mention any names, that intentionally did after the fact to see what happens so I could beg forgiveness, okay? He stood right here in this audience and said, judge me 10 grand.
Yeah.
Fine me 10 grand. In other words, and then you can go kiss on the way out the door. So this guy this wasn't an intentional act on his part. He followed the rules. He didn't know. He got an electrical permit. You would have thought that somebody in permitting, no disrespect to the girls because it's not their job, but we had a building inspector who should have said, you're on top of a bog here. Did
there's
you
no
talk to
question about it.
conservation?
There's no
Nobody's
question.
arguing.
So would I charge this guy $1,000? Not in a million years.
Right.
Would I charge somebody else? Yeah, I would. And I'm sure you've got somebody in mind also, that you do the
So
same.
administratively, to process one of these things, is that the real cost?
It's
$150?
cost for like Ashley, me, Jill, Michelle gets involved, et cetera.
So that is an actual cost. I mean,
Yeah, it's lunch, that's all it is.
It's a.
I
We
wish.
get lunch
right.
on
So they're not really charging it arbitrarily. It's a
No,
real cost.
it's real cost.
right.
Yeah, and it matches what's
Yeah, it's even better, because the
happening.
$70 goes in the maintenance account for Concom's use, so it doesn't even go to government. 150 goes in the maintenance account.
Oh, we can use that.
So let's make it 1,000. And maintain everything.
There is no way we're gonna pay for his cost, but all these permitting fees were originally designed
They go into the maintenance
to
account?
go into
Yes,
the
they go
maintenance
into
account.
the
And
maintenance.
it's supposed to.
Yep, they were supposed to.
God only knows what's in that account and where it's even located. Probably up in the attic, I don't know.
I would love to do
Okay.
a whole schedule of pricing. I just don't think that, if you could share the Dartmouth one with everybody.
Sure, I'll-
It's like 3 pages long.
Yeah, send it.
They're,
We can modify it.
yes, we can.
Of course.
But it's, again, I mean, you said on the articles before here, good luck.
Well,
If they see a 4-page schedule for
but you put it
commercial.
beside, the only way to present that is you sell the sizzle. So you gotta present the ones that are currently in place. These are the current laws as they stand. We're getting more and more of this after the fact NOI, so here's this deal, we'd like to add this category. And then bring in the, $70 fee if it's under this kind of money, $150 if it's over.
Right now,
It's
it's
$70.
$70.
Whether you've got well, actually, it's not $70, it's more than that if you've got a big project.
That's right, because the state,
Because of the way the number, it's in our own laws. Because we have a scale.
right.
You want to make the minimum
That's it.
threshold the 150, is that where you're, and then the rest of it follows along by the existing scale?
No, there's a scale for the orders and conditions, which is different than the administrative cost. The
Yeah, but an
administrative cost-
NOI that's going to need a variance is going to have an order of conditions, so there's going to be a,
And that's where the sliding scale comes into effect right now. But on top of that right now is the $70 administrative fee.
because now there's filing fees and there's recording fees.
Right, but the $70, it doesn't matter what part of that sliding scale you come out to, you still pay the 70. And what I'm doing here and on the one before it is upping that fee so that we're in line with the fees that are charged in neighboring communities.
I just think you're going to have a hard time with 150. I'd like to see it be a little less than that. I'd like to take us maybe a little bit more of a baby
It's
step.
been the RDA's been $35 for 10 years.
It's not their fault that we didn't increase it 5 years ago
Well-
and kind of bring it up to speed. To sit back and just, better than double a number
Right.
in a day and age when everybody's getting squeezed to begin with and they already see what their new tax bills are and so forth. I'm just not sure that this is going to fly real good, that's all.
Well,
Well, we give it a shot, see what happens. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Worst they can say is,
right. Right.
Yeah, but why not come up with a number that's easier to say okay to? I mean, would it be a killer if we went to 125? Now we're not doubling the fee. You think it's, but it's,
no, it doesn't.
it's
Perception makes a difference.
It's am I wrong? It's always
makes a
perception, am I
difference.
right?
It's all about perception.
It's all about perception.
You want to make it 125, I can do that.
It doesn't matter to me.
Well, I mean,
Yes, it does.
Well, it's gonna go in the maintenance account.
All right, we're
One
gonna
less
make,
long
you want to go
one.
125?
I'm gonna go 125
All
on
right.
both of
Okay,
them.
that's fine. At least you raise it. It's good.
Because then Alan will speak up
Because
at
no
town
one can
meeting.
say we doubled the rate.
Alan will get up at town meeting and say, I came up with this number.
As a
Oh, no,
financial
believe me
guy-
when I tell you, I got plenty to get up at town meeting, and this won't be it. I promise you.
Okay.
All right, next.
The next one, number 6, is.
We tried this a couple of years ago. This is self-explanatory.
Yeah, this is how it's being done anyway, so
Yeah,
we just
that's-
have to,
that's
we're
fine.
changing the bylaw to match what is actually
So
happening.
this becomes a clarification of current practice.
Yeah. This article is clerical in nature and reflects the process currently in place.
There you go. So
As an
it's
informational summary.
a clarification of current practice. That's all.
Yep.
Makes it easy. Simple. Everybody can press the yes button.
Okay, the next one is, Article 7 is the definition of alter. And there were no strike-throughs here, everything was an addition. Under the 5th bullet, we added walls. Driving in piles, erection of repair of
course you
buildings, walls or structures
Why is that?
of any kind. The next bullet, placing of obstructions or permanent objects or structures in the water. On the next bullet, we added shrubs, flowers, and wild grasses to things that can't be destroyed. That falls under alteration if you destroy those things. The next one under alter is the introduction of non-native grasses, shrubs, trees, or other plantings, anything non-native.
You'll have no problem with the non-native. You may have an issue of the destruction of plant life, but put it forth and see what they do with it.
Okay. And finally,
Stayed up late thinking about these, didn't you?
huh? I
It's
don't
like your
know. I'm up
candy's
late all the
delicious.
time. And the eighth one is, we added in the definition under recreation what Dan had suggested. And it says on the last sentence, activities shall not hinder access to wetlands and related water recourses. And then added adversely affect wildlife habitat and/or introduce invasive
I'm
species.
okay with invasive species. What do we care about wildlife habitat? The bird will move on to another place.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got to go back to the
You afraid the
beginning and
squirrel
change our
can't
whole
stay
mission
there?
statement then.
All right, so
All right.
we are amending, we are amending Article 2 to
Yep,
add as defined by mass.
MGO Wetlands Protection Act.
Right, under wet, and then we're doing articles, we're amending Article 4 and Article 5 to go from 150 to 125,
Yep.
the germane tax cut. As opposed to
Damn
the
straight.
Badger
So he
Bridge.
feels better about it.
All right, so, anyway,
Listen, I got my tax bill. Don't get me started.
I know.
I got 4 emails from people today
Oh, really?
and a couple of texts saying, have you seen the tax bill? Who did this?
Yeah, New Year's Eve.
I got news for you.
I got my text.
If I could sell my house and what they just assessed me at, I'd move out tomorrow. So there'll be abatements filed. I don't know who got this.
You're paying for
I'm not paying your rate yet,
rural character.
but I don't have, Samson's Pond in my backyard.
No. All right, so anyway, I will entertain a motion to approve these 8 articles, and I will talk to the town administrator's office and get on the select board agenda, because I have to talk to them about this.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and
Should
seconded.
actually be a joint meeting with the select board so we can all sell the sizzle, but I don't have any problem with you doing it.
Okay. Where were you 3 years ago when I had to go by myself in front of a firing squad?
I offered,
Okay.
and you didn't want me to.
All right. I digress. Okay, so it's been a...
It's probably on video.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's been moved and seconded to approve the 8 articles as amended, and for these to be presented to the select board for inclusion on the 2023 town warrant. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it's approved 5-0.
We should discuss the stipend increase. Maybe we can get that on the warrant, too.
We're gonna have to up that fee. That 125 just went back to...
Get rid of it. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, moved and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we're out. Thank you,
Ooh.
Area 58.